Namaste, beautiful souls. This is Éin-Aeon, and I am so excited to be here with you guys today. Welcome to this new evolution of a podcast that I have been presenting on other formats that I am now bringing over into YouTube. And the name that I have decided to go with on this is the eternal evolution of you. Every single thing that I'm presenting here, they're channeled messages. Being a pure channel, being someone that is attuned to their higher self, that has access to the infinite intelligence that flows to and through all of us, I have spent every moment since my awakening journey accessing this, attuning to it more and more, and anchoring this infinite wisdom, which is now my truth, as well as those that are experiencing the same thing, into every aspect of my journey. And one thing you guys will hear me say a lot is that the truth cannot be learned. It can only be known through experience. And one of the things that I am actually currently going through in terms of my own journey is understanding what abundance, what the embodiment of abundance means to me in this part of my journey. This was something that I had a lot of trouble with in past lifetimes. And when I say trouble, you guys, I mean I had access to abundance, not just money. I had access to abundance of money, abundance of opportunities. And the interesting thing about any time we receive an exaggerated amount of anything is, what do we do with it? The universe, spirit, source, your higher self, whatever name you want to give it, or all of it, or even multiple parts of it. This essence, this higher vibrational aspect is looking to see, how do we handle what we are given? And the one thing that I know everyone is familiar with is suffering. That is what is known as the human condition. The Buddha spoke very, very much about humans are here to suffer. But the one thing that we don't tend to grasp is that suffering is a choice. And this is something I'm going to get into a little bit here, maybe more than a little bit, but I'm definitely going to be speaking on this a lot more, because suffering is a choice. You come here with a plan, a purpose. Well, actually, you come here with two purposes, two main ones. You come here with a collective purpose, and you come here with a soul purpose. So what does any of this have to do with abundance and suffering? Well, it has everything to do with both. This is a world of duality. Gaia is a school where we come to learn how to master ourselves and to master the energy. We come here to learn how to manipulate energy, how to be energetic alchemists. This is a very low density existence. The energies are heavy. I mean, you can just think about what gravity does to the body in comparison to being in a place with less gravity or less density. You basically float away. So the density is contained within this atmosphere, within this environment, within this experience, this existence. And so when we think of abundance, a lot of people are going to think of that in a material way. But I want to ask you to open your minds a little bit, and let's look at abundance from the standpoint of what it actually is, not the multiple things that it can be. And I'm also going to use that term "things" very lightly, because I'm also going to come back to that. There's really no such thing as a thing. But anyways, we'll come back. So people usually think of abundance as receiving materialistic items, that it must become tangible materially for you to experience abundance, which is true. That is true. But abundance is actually a vibration. just as everything is. There is no aspect, no part of anything that you experience that is not a vibration. So everything is vibration. How you experience your environment, or what you experience in your environment, is solely based on the vibration that you embody. Of course, there are varying degrees of that vibration. I'll use water. This is something I use all the time. And by the way, little quick side note, water is more dense than the experiences you have. Little fun fact. That's something else I'm going to talk about on later. But there are varying degrees of water. When you think of hot and cold, you can have scalding hot to the point that it actually causes your skin to boil off, or you can think of freezing cold water that can literally kill you. Both can kill you. Both can affect the body to such a degree in a short amount of time that the body does not have enough time to, I would say amply respond to be able to heal. Over time it can, of course. It can always heal itself. But what I mean by this is there are always extremes. There's the extreme light, there's the extreme dark, there's the extreme hot, there's the extreme cold, there's the extreme positive, and the extreme negative. But there's always infinite variable parts of any of those in between the extremes. You can have mild, you can have medium. I mean, you guys get the point. So every single one of those degrees is a vibration. If you go up a degrees, it's a different vibration. If you go down a degrees, it's a different vibration. So when you embody abundance as the totality of what it is, as a vibration, even though there are varying degrees of that vibration, you get to choose which one you want to experience. When you embody abundance as the abundance of all, as not feeling or seeing or assuming or expecting lack, when you have a joyous expectancy of the best that could ever be. This all starts with the joyous knowing that you are the best that you will ever be in every moment. And so if you wake up every day and you make one single choice, and that only choice is to try your best, I guarantee you that you will start to experience a life far greater than you've ever imagined. If you can wake up every day and be grateful for what you have, not reminiscing, and what I like to say with my students or my clients is I don't let them call memories memories. Memories are containers that hold moments in time that cause us to relive them. I ask them to word it as a remembrance, meaning they're not attached to it. It is not a part of them, because I do take them through the healing that frees them from that unnecessary suffering. But I guide them on how to have remembrances of what they no longer desire without recalling it at all times. Because when you recall a memory that does not bring you happiness or joy, then you're recalling suffering, so therefore you're suffering again and again and again, and it's needless. You've already learned from it. But in order for us to show that we've learned, we have to release the need to revisit what has already caused the suffering. How do we do this? Well, we have to go the opposite direction. What is the opposite direction of suffering? Well, it starts with gratitude. Gratitude and forgiveness. You're not going to jump from suffering to self-love. That might be your goal. That should always be your goal. Self-love should be a conscious priority. But it is not so easily attained when we have been conditioned to suffer, when the human condition is to suffer. But the Buddha even spoke about, he gave his whole life experience was one that could teach us what he calls the middle path, how to live the middle path, how to release yourself as the Taoist state from the wandering mind and align with the shining mind. The wandering mind is the monkey mind. It is always focused on everything that could go wrong or should go wrong or will go wrong or has gone wrong, could go wrong. And what are you doing? We are getting caught up in patterns that will never come to pass, or you get caught up in those patterns for long enough that they do come to pass because you created them. You see, you're always manifesting, and this is where a lot of people get caught up. They get confused because nobody has taught them this. You're always manifesting. Manifesting does not just miraculously appear. You do not just wake up one day and say, all of a sudden I want to apply the law of attraction and all of a sudden I want to manifest. No, the law of attraction has always been there. The laws, the universal laws, are always in action. They always apply. You are the one that was not aware of it. Once you become aware, it is your responsibility to understand them so that you are not a victim to your circumstances, but you understand that you are creating them. The law of attraction and the law of assumption go hand in hand. The law of assumption states that everything in your reality is you pushed out. You are mirrored in your reality, in every single thing, in every single person. Because here's the thing. This is also what I help my students to understand. There really is no person, place, or thing. You create it. In actuality, in truth, what you're experiencing is not anything other than a projection of your mind. This was discovered, let's see, about 40, 50 years ago. I know I probably don't have that calculation right. I was going to give you guys a date, but I don't have the information readily available to me. But there was a Nobel Peace Prize given to a gentleman who, and I know I should have this right in front of me, so I do apologize, but he created the first holographic projection, showing that all particles, all bits that show that projection are a part of a whole. You can break apart that projection. If you guys have seen a projection screen, the photo that is being projected out onto that screen is little particles of light that all start as a whole. They are broken up in space and then they come back to a whole wherever they land. That's exactly what's happening. Exactly what's happening with you. Your mind is being fed particles of information, which is energy. Whatever that varying degrees of that energy is, it is an energy that is aligned to a thought and an emotion. You have a thought, and then you have an accompanying emotion, which is energy in motion. And then the action follows. Law of attraction. That's why the word action is in the law of attraction. Not because necessarily of the action that needs to be taken. Although yes, aligned action is what brings the manifestation to your awareness a lot faster. But you're always manifesting. So if the law of assumption states that everyone is you pushed out, and the law of attraction states that what you desire is magnetized to you, how do you bridge the gap? Well, first you have to understand that every single thing in your mind that is programmed is what is projected into your reality. The thought is the first wave of particles that is generated, that starts to form the picture, that is being projected into your reality as your environment, as your people, as your places, as your things. Your energy in motion, the emotions that you generate, magnetize the energy to you that is going to fill in the parts that start to make it tangible. And when you take aligned action, you are endorsing the thoughts and endorsing the emotions, either fully or partially. If it's fully, then that means that everything is perfectly lined up for the picture to become a whole tangible experience. Meaning you remained focused with the vibration that matched the thought, that matched the generated emotion to begin with. So, for example, if you had a thought of wanting to start, let's say that you wanted to create your own business, And that business would be, well, I'll just use me for an example, because that's the best example I can give is me from my own experiences. I generated, when I started having this thought of doing what I'm doing right now, I had no clue how to do it. No clue. There was a lot of fear, but I also started to see that fear could be used to my benefit. So instead of focusing on the fear, I focused on the excitement, the possibilities, the probabilities of the people I would be able to help, the joy. I also focused on the gratitude. I was grateful to be in a position to be able to do this for other people. Was there as many infinite possibilities of all the downfalls of starting a business, being a healer, being an energy master, speaking to people publicly about what I do or who I am or what I channel? Of course. But see, if I just focused my attention there, even though I had this thought of starting a business, but my emotions were only going into worry and only going into anxiety and only going into lack, then the thought was half of the vibration, but the emotion is the other half. That's what I mean by the action can only endorse half or both. So if you have a thought about creating it, and then you have the emotions of lack or worry, and then you're constantly working, trying to get your name out there, trying to do a branding, trying to get this company started, but the emotions are not aligned with the thought or with the action. Because see, you're having to work 3 times as hard to accomplish what should come naturally when the thought, the emotion, and the action all come together. The action is never meant to be overworking, overthinking, or overfeeling. The middle path. It's meant to be a balance. The balance is going to be different for everyone, but essentially, it will be the same. And what I mean by that is everyone has to find their balance. And everyone will always overstep or understep until that balance is found. Because it's trial and error. There is no such thing as failure. We literally build our successes by knowing what will not work. But if you're just focused on failure being failure, then you're not seeing the path in front of you as the steps you are building to reach the goal that you desire. And those steps is what is pulling you closer to the desire. And once you start seeing what's actually working, then guess what? You have the thought, you already know what you want. Well, how does that feel? How does that make you feel? You're going to have a wider range of emotions pass through you. Your job, though, is to only focus on the ones that make you feel good. Not attached to them, but when they come to you, say, hey, that's the one I want. That's the one I want to use. That's the energy I want to use to create. And then maybe some worry comes up and says, but what if it doesn't work? Say, thank you for your input, but I'm going to have to ask you to go. Thank you for showing me that you're available, but I don't choose you. See, emotions are energy emotion. They are all available to you, an infinite wide range of emotions. The ones that you choose are the ones that you experience. You can still create a business from worry and fear and a lack mindset, but you're going to be struggling. You are going to have to work 20 times as hard for 10 times longer. And you're going to go through so much unnecessary struggling that you're probably going to give up before you reach your end result. That's what happens to most people. It doesn't even matter if it's about building a business. It could be about a relationship. It could be about a family matter. But it all starts and ends with you. Every bit of it. So, as I'm sitting here and I'm leaving this message with you guys today, my main point was that we don't create abundance. We embody the vibration of abundance. And what does abundance feel like? It feels like joy. It feels like happiness. It feels like love. It feels like gratitude. Right? All the things that we consider that we would want to be abundant, well, they're all full of the happy feeling things. So if you already know what you want, well, don't get attached to the thought, because what good is that going to do you? Getting attached to a thought is just getting attached to a dream that never becomes realized. It cannot become reality because you're not doing anything but remaining focused on what you want without generating the energy to experience it. So this is why scripting is so powerful. Most people don't understand scripting. They use it as a main tool instead of a numerous amount of tools. There are so many tools. There's meditation, which is the most powerful. There's energy work, which is one of the most energy work and meditation are the two most powerful. If you're not interested in doing energy work, I highly recommend working with someone that already is, quite obviously, because you will have the ability to have anything for the positive, the light, the happy, the good, the love, the abundance. That is enforced. It is invigorated. It is multiplied. And so whatever negative was there is reduced considerably, if not removed at all, depending on how long you receive the energy work. This is why I went into energy mastery right off the bat. I understood that that was the beginning of everything. It was also where I always come back to. So it all begins and ends with you. Everything, the relationships, the career, the family, it all begins and ends with you. Most people will not take enough responsibility to even admit that, because this means that they will take responsibility for the good, but they will never take responsibility for the bad. And even when it comes to suffering in a familial dynamic, and this might trigger some people, and I do apologize for that sincerely, but at the same time it needs to be heard, because I can speak from experience. When you show up for the best and as the best version of you, so does everyone else. People will say, but I didn't choose to be born into suffering. Yes, you did. Your soul did. You see, when we come into this life, the reason why we come into this life in suffering is because we chose it in past lives, because we didn't heal our karma. We did not align our dharma. What does that mean? That means that when I said earlier that we've been given abundance in other lifetimes. Well, when you're given something and you do not use it to the highest and best good, you generate negative karma. Your choices are the causation. Your experiences are the effect. And in terms of the suffering, being born into suffering, if you chose abundance in a past life, let's say you did generate that, you did embody it, and when you were given that great gift for whatever it was, you did not share it in a way that was for the highest good of all and the harm of none. There was harm that befell others because you were callous and you were not empathetic, you were not grateful. See, we are given these tests by our higher selves, by our oversouls. We are an extension of our higher selves and our oversouls. We come here, this is a school. We come here to learn. So if you were in, let's say, 4th grade in your past life, and you do not pass that grade by healing and by doing what needs to be done, by not fulfilling the purpose, the two purposes that you came here for, most notably, that I've already mentioned, well, guess what? You fail. You have to come back. Dolores Cannon spoke on this, I believe. And she, of course, everything she spoke on was absolutely correct. Even though she was not a channel, she was still helping people to access this infinite wisdom that we all have. This is something I'm able to access openly and freely from my own Akashic records. Being a channel, I might not be a hypnotherapist, but I am a channel. And I am open fully, connected fully, attuned fully to my higher self. So I can access the knowledge that we all have. I call it, the universal IQ, the infinite intelligence of all that is. And we are given these great blessings. We actually are given them because we manifested them. Or we came into this life with specific programming. Your brain is a processor. It's receiving information. That is how you are unconsciously creating right now. When you are not aware of what you're unconsciously creating, then you will continue to do it. What does that mean? Well, for starters, you know that your heart is beating, you know that your lungs are breathing, and you don't have to think about it. You do it naturally. When you feel tired, you go to sleep. When you eat food, it is digested. These are all natural programs. These are all unconscious programs. Your mind is being fed information. It is being fed bits of information and the synapses are firing. When they fire, they're sending and receiving, sending and receiving, sending and receiving. What they are sending and what they are receiving is based on two things. The programming that was put into the subconscious, that is meant to run in the unconscious, which is the body, to keep it functioning, but it is also a set of programmings from the past life that you never healed. So anything from a past life that you gained negative karma from, your past life positive karma is also recognized and remembered. But we tend to focus on the suffering more. That's why I'm addressing it. Most people want to know how to free themselves from suffering. Well, it all starts and ends with you. When you become conscious, that means you are fully aware and are fully acknowledging what it is, not only that you desire, but what it is within you that needs to take place to get there. The body will always run unconsciously until you bring awareness to it. When awareness is brought to it, then it becomes conscious. That is what conscious means. Total awareness. Where awareness goes, creation flows. That is something I termed, a couple months ago, and it stuck really well. And this means that if your awareness is not in the places within you that need awareness to be healed and released, then your body is going to continue to generate that in terms of emotions. It's called a feedback loop. If it is not so happy and not so positive, then it's a negative feedback loop. If it's happy and loving and positive, then it's a positive feedback loop. Everyone has a negative feedback loop. Everyone is running from that negative feedback loop until it is healed. So we do not ever create abundance. Abundance is what Source is. Source is abundant, infinitely abundant in everything. It lacks nothing. Source lacks nothing. Therefore, we lack nothing. Love is always available to us. Abundance is always available to us. Just because you decide you want it at some point does not mean that you never had access to it. It just means you are not focusing your awareness on it in order to receive it in a way that was a vibrational match to you. You are what you experience. You are what you receive. The universe does not know the difference between good and bad, right and wrong. It does not differentiate. It does not use symbols. That's what words are. They're symbols. That's how we recognize things. The universe says, okay, well, you feel this way, regardless of what the desire is. The desire is the encoding. The thought is the encoding. So think of it as, if you guys think about, I don't know if some of you might know this, some of you might not, back in the day when we used to burn CDs, that information was being encoded in the disc. Then you put the disc in the processor and it reads the information and it plays the movie or the songs, right? That's what's happening. The encoding is the thought. That is the thought that's being sent into those synapses, sent into every cell of your body. Those cells read that information energetically, and then they tell your body to produce whatever accompanying emotion you believe should go with that thought. And once those two come together, well, then the processor starts producing that to project that into your reality. So if you're not aware of what your thoughts are really doing, then how can you know what it is you really want? Most people cannot ever, when I would say, who are you? They will tell me who others have told them to be. They don't know who they really are. We've been conditioned to live and think and act a certain way based on societal rules and limited beliefs. See, limitations are the only thing that we create. Abundance is the embodiment of the vibration, or multiple vibrations: gratitude, love, joy, forgiveness, bliss, peace, harmony, enlightenment. When you embody, meaning you emotionally generate from the body the emotions, the energy that are consistently coming and going, that align, that are in connection, that are resonant with the thought. So if I were to say, I want $1 million, but then I consistently think about nothing, I think nothing but the thoughts of how much I don't have. I want $1 million, but I'm so broke. I want $1 million, but I can't pay for this bill. I want $1 million, but that's splitting your vibration. If you want $1 million, you have to create $1 million. You have to generate $1 million. What does $1 million feel like? What does $1 million produce when you have it in your hands? What are you doing with that $1 million? How are you experiencing it? And let me tell you this, if you're only going to experience it for selfish reasons and momentary gratification, even if you align to it, even if you receive it, you can generate negative karma, and you will become extremely unhappy with that money. It's not just about generating it. It's not just about manifesting it, because you're always manifesting. It's about what do you do with the blessings of abundance that you are given. It's always twofold. You can have whatever you want. The universe will always give you whatever you are. And you can be rich for the rest of your life. But guess what? You will come back and suffer the next life. If you do not use that money in a way that is healed and healthy. We are never meant to hold on to the money we receive. It is always meant to be emotion. It is energy. It is not it's not a dynamic thing. It should not be singular. It is not anything but an extension of us. And we are infinite things. What we are infinitely is up to us. So, as I've sat here and I just looked down, I was talking for 32 minutes and 23 seconds. I looked down for a very, very important reason. And as I'm sharing this, I feel so many souls out there having these aha moments and saying, oh my goodness, now it makes sense. And I think for some it will still be somewhat confusing. But remember what is being implanted into your subconscious, this truth. Even if it does not make sense to the rational mind, the analytical mind, the left brain, the blade, it will make sense to the right, to the chalice, to the womb, to the feminine. The feminine does not have to think about or overthink or even attempt to make sense of. It will accept it as it is, and it will apply it as it is. How it is applied will come through in the analytical mind. But this is one of those things that needs to be taken in over time, consistently. That's how we build healthy habits. Healthy habits produce healthy experiences. Healthy experiences keep us fully aligned with our Dharma. We do not generate negative karma if we are aligned. The matrix is meant to be experienced for the suffering, but once you've had those lessons, you're meant to release yourself. Release yourself from that programming and recreate it. You are a literal walking blueprint. You are the architect of this blueprint. You are the doctor. You are the philosopher. You are the creator. There is nothing that you cannot attain, but once you attain it, the question is, how do you regurgitate it? How do you release it back into the collective in a way that is going to help others? This is where people get caught up. If they don't get caught up before that, they usually get caught up here. So my challenge to each and every one of you is understand that your potentiality is limitless. The only thing that you can create is limitations. When you realize that you're the one creating the limitations, then you will step aside and say, how can I get out of my own way? What can I do to experience this next moment a little bit better than the last? Because the past is only a collection of memories that you're choosing to hold on to, when they should be remembrances that you only visit. Like, for example, me telling you guys these stories now, me offering examples from my own experiences. I don't visit those experiences in any emotional way. It's a remembrance. It's a singularity of energy. But that energy only exists in thought. It does not exist anywhere outside of thought, because that is what I choose. It does not generate an emotion in me if I do not wish it to. And if it's going to generate an emotion, it's only going to generate an emotion of joy, of understanding. Because I don't choose to remember anything unless it is allowing me to generate those emotions. I choose to hold on to nothing but positive. I do not choose to hold on to negative to any degree. So even if I retell my story of trauma and suffering, you will see me do it with a smile on my face, because there is no reason for me to feel anything other than joy, than gratitude. I would not be able to be here offering what I'm offering now if I didn't have the gratitude and forgiveness. I'm grateful for the suffering. I'm grateful for the trauma. I'm grateful for the abuse. People will say that trauma made them stronger. Well, that's definitely true if you're on the path of healing, because you cannot be anything but strong. But at the same time, it's not about being strong. And I want to make that clear. See, when we think of having to be strong, we think that we're having to push through something. But what you're actually doing is you're pushing things down, meaning you're not addressing them. You might remember them, but that does not mean you're addressing them. Most people are still running from their trauma, and they're still hiding it. They're not taking responsibility for it. And I say that as someone who has been abused, who has had bones broken, who has been raped, who has had a child, 2 children lost in the womb from abuse. So much suffering. I've been homeless. I'm a recovered drug addict. If there is any form of physical, mental, or emotional abuse that you can imagine, I have lived it. And I also have access to my past lives, so I know what it felt like to suffer in those lives. And yet, I feel nothing but peace, because I do not revisit those moments to find anything but peace. It is always your choice how you choose to remember. We're not meant to forget, but we're also not meant to hold on to them consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously. Subconsciously, this is something I will get into a little bit later. But subconsciously, you can actually recreate those emotionally. We're meant to recreate those quote-unquote memories from a new emotional perspective. That way, when you revisit them, nothing comes to the surface but peace. Peace is the middle path. There is no need to react to something anymore. You've already learned from it. Reaction is the inability to let go of the emotions. So, you guys, I really and truly hope that you have found some value in this new knowledge, in this new understanding of how you're creating and manifesting your reality at all times. When you begin to understand the basics, which are the foundation of everything in your reality, it all starts and ends with you. And how one of my previous mentors told me was, how you do anything is how you do everything, which is true. But it's not just how you do anything. It's how you think about anything. It's how you think about everything. Because the more that you are leaning towards positive, or the more that you're leaning towards negative, that's going to be the majority of what you experience. That's going to be the majority of what you feel. So how you feel a certain way is also how you think about it. So how you think about anything is how you think about everything. If you assume that the world is going to hurt you in some way, you will live that. If you assume that people are going to hurt you in some way, you will live that. If you assume that love is going to hurt you, even though love is a vibration of its own and is nowhere associated with pain and suffering, they are opposite, total opposite vibrations, and they do not exist together. They exist simultaneously, but not interchangeably. We will feel them as interchangeable because we have been given the set of beliefs that limits us to that. But see, unconditional love is not conditioned. We don't put conditions on love when it is unconditional. We also don't limit ourselves to only saying that we can only find love outside of us. Love never was ever found. It was only ever known outside of you because you generated it from somewhere within you. But if you generate it from a place of separation, a place of lack, a place of fear, then it is never going to show up in its entirety because it can't. Because the most valuable asset that you have is you. And if you do not start to love yourself, you cannot expect someone else to love you. They don't know how. They can only show up how you show up. If you are showing up for yourself in a position of feeling unworthy, then they're going to feel unworthy, which means they don't love themselves, which means how can they love you? And then, of course, you're seeking outside of yourself when your reality is just you pushed out. You're attaching to a projection of you. So how other people show you how they are in your reality is based on their own programming, their own thinking, but it's also based on yours. So if people are showing you a certain aspect of themselves and you are just automatically put off by it, stop and ask yourself, where does that exist within you? And how much love, how much more love can you show yourself so that you can put that to sleep? It's not going to die. It's not going to go away forever. It can't. This is a world of infinite possibilities and duality. Where light exists, so does dark. Where love exists, so does suffering. What you choose, though, is what you create. That's what you experience. The darkness never goes anywhere. You just don't experience it. Not like you did. You know it's there. You love the fact that it has existed so that you could be grateful for love. So my challenge for you all is to take this and apply it in some way. Take one little portion of what I've said and apply it. And please leave me comments, leave me feedback. Let me know what resonated with you. This helps me to best know how I can be of the best service to each and every one of you. So thank you all for joining me. This has been my very first podcast with the Eternal Evolution of You. I have so much more that I'm going to be putting out with this whole creation. But this was the very first thing that I've been called to do. And I'm truly excited to bring you more in the eternal evolution of you. So, until next time, I love you all. In all ways, always. Adonai Vasu. Barakis.